we're talking about the Waterboys here, and specifically the start of, well, the Waterboys is Mike Scott.
Right.
It's one guy, and whoever he has in his band. So we kind of know that. And his first album came out in 1983, debut, just titled The Waterboys.
And by the way, just a little side note on that. I was trying to figure out how many tracks were actually on, because I remember buying it at the time, like when it came out. And I remember it almost felt like an EP to me. It didn't have like the full amount of tracks.
Right.
And
That was, yeah.
I was just researching it. You probably know this. They said that they were testing the waters more like in the UK and European markets. So they did like 7 tracks apparently. And then they thought that the US market wouldn't like the EPs. They weren't really used to it. So by the end of that year, I guess it was 83, they put out a more full album release for the US market, which had like the song count, a number of tracks varies. Like in one place I'd see it said 5 tracks for the mini album, and another place it said 7, and then for the full album it said 8, and then another place 9. But I remember the one with 8 tracks basically, with December, Girl Called Johnny, 3-Day Man, Gala, I Will Not Follow, It Should Have Been You, Girl in the Swing, and Savage Earthheart. Is that kind of your first encounter with it?
Well, for the proper UK release, my first record was that US release, which was 6 tracks, I believe.
6.
6, yeah. And it had a different album cover, kind of a sepia toned or, well, a black and white picture of Mike with a guitar over his shoulder. And so that was 6 tracks, and I'm pretty sure that came out in 83, late 83. I probably didn't get it till 84, but shortly I got an import copy of the proper
me too.
album, and that was 8 tracks.
Yeah.
That was on his label is Enzyme Records, and
in the UK.
US, in the UK and Europe, and then in the US it was Chrysalis Records.
Well, it was Island, and then later it was Chrysalis.
Oh, it was Island originally? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But in the US, it was Island?
Yeah.
Okay.
But you're correct in that eventually it moved over to Chrysalis.
Oh, okay. So yeah, the record came out. That was the first thing at the time I was listening to, and I sort of disdain the term now, but the big music, and the big music for our several listeners was considered bands like U2, Big Country, The Alarm, to a lesser extent Simple Minds, who had already been around for a few years. Echo and the Bunnymen, maybe. Bands of that nature. And the Waterboys were kind of lumped in with those bands, as different as all those bands sound. So I guess we're concentrating on the first 3 Waterboy albums, which you might think that's slim pickings, but there's a lot of music that came out and has since been reissued on remaster, re-released albums for those first 3 albums. The debut and the second album, A Pagan Place, and third album, which was kind of a breakthrough, This Is the Sea.
Mm-hmm.
So there's actually a whole ton of music that is associated with those years. roughly 81, 82. Some tracks have come out before Mike was actually started using the name Waterboys. And Mike has said, that he got the term from the name Waterboys from a Lou Reed song from his 1973 Berlin album, and the song is called "The Kids." And it's a beautiful song, and it's also one of the most depressing pieces of music you'll ever hear. And there's a recurring line, I am the water boy. And so Mike Scott has said that's where he,
well, according to that, remember I told you I read that book by, what's his name?
Ian Abrams, yeah.
Yeah. He attributes the name of the Waterboys to that, and also there was another thing, like he read it in a book, or there was one other influence as well. But he mentions the famous Lou Reed connection that you just did too.
Yeah, I haven't read the Abrams book yet. You just told me about it the other day, actually. I think I'd heard of it, but I haven't read it, and I certainly will be. I've read Mike's autobiography, which is really, really well written. There's probably another explanation of the name, sort of the fluidity of water, and the sort of metaphorical aspect.
I know we were discussing it yesterday, and he said, in addition to the influences of the Lou Reed and the other one, which I can't recall, the reason he chose it is just the changing, fluidity and the creative nature of water, and very much as he proved to be, just this chameleon-like character, always changing musical shapes.
Changing the players he works with.
Right.
Most often he's recorded under the name of the Waterboys, but he released at least 2 albums, in the mid-'90s, just under his own name, 2 solo albums. Well,
yeah, which were great, by the way. I think he realized, his audience shrunk hugely, and it was just as a marketing thing. To your point, the Waterboys was him anyway. You might as well take advantage of that built-in recognition just to get his music heard by more people.
Well, sure, and you can think, that applies to any, so-called, say, reunions. Say, the New York Dolls, they released 3 albums starting in, the 2006, in the 21st century.
Right.
Well, they're essentially David Johansen albums with Sylvain, and he had always written, even on his solo career after the Dolls with Sylvain, what's going to sell more and make more money.
Well, it kind of reminds me of the Replacements reunion too, which is Paul Westerberg, with Tommy.
Right.
But it's Paul and a bunch of hired guys for the tour, basically.
Well, 2 other guys, Josh Freese on drums and his guitar player.
Yeah, but Josh was not in the original or Replacements. Right?
No, of course not. You're right. So you want a paycheck, especially the people who they're not top of the pops people.
Right.
And some of my favorite music, we're talking about, the Replacements of the New York Dolls, the Waterboys, the Clash's final album, Cut the Crap. Well, it's nothing to do with the Clash. It's Joe Strummer with Norman Watt-Roy on bass and a bunch of drum machines and Nick Shepard on guitar. Ostensibly, it's Joe Strummer's real debut album, from 1985. But, well, he had the legal right to use, at the time, the name of the Clash, and so that's what, he and Bernie Rhodes decided to call the band and the album. And it doesn't sound like the Clash. It's a fun album. It's not as awful as people claim to be. But anyway, I'm kind of going off script here. But so in Mike Scott's case, he is kind of an exception in so much as from the get-go, it was basically a one-man show
Right.
with various, buddies and other people popping in here and there, even on the debut album, the
Right.
first album. So, ostensibly it's Mike, who, he's a multi-instrumentalist, primarily a guitar player and piano player, but plays a lot of stringed instruments. He's played drums, on Waterboys album, or at least one song, which happens to be a really, really tremendous song.
He's got a really unique way of playing piano, kind of that plonky, like, one bass note, two notes in the right hand, kind of, ding, 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 or ding, 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 It's very, very simplistic, but it's brilliant because of the chord changes and, how he sings over it. Very distinctive, in a brilliant, kind of simple, but also unique and very catchy.
He's got a great left hand, and he doesn't try to do more than he's capable of.
It's the phrasing. I think it's that's a big part of Dylan too, right? So much of good music is phrasing and timing.
Does he write primarily on guitar or piano? Who knows? Maybe it's 50-50, maybe it's 90-10. I don't know. But it is a very distinctive sound that he has to this day, and live he plays as much piano as guitar. He'll go. He's got his setup, even though he's had dedicated keyboard players for many years.
Yeah, he'll have like a little piano set in the middle of the gig.
Right, and I've always wondered what is he using. It's, obviously it's not a Wurlitzer electric piano, but it's clearly an electric piano. But it doesn't look like a Fender Rhodes. I don't even know if they make them anymore, which have kind of a distinctive.
Yeah, I think it's more of an electric piano. It's some kind of electric percussive sounding. A big part of you think about A Girl Called Johnny or Spirit or Hole of the Moon. That they have those signature piano, plonky kind of sounds. It's very percussive.
Very percussive, yeah. But he has used acoustic pianos, uprights, and even full grand pianos. But even on record, often in the studio, he has this kind of distinct sound. And I don't know if it's a Yamaha. Not to get too techie about this, but it's a distinct sound he has to go with his distinct approach and attack on the piano. But it's generally some electric piano. I'm guessing it might be a Yamaha electric. What year, what make, what model, I don't know. But he's a very, very distinct instrumentalist. I would say the same for his guitar playing, which I think he downplays. I think it's extremely interesting what he does with his, and has always done with his electric. He's got some really, really, top-notch, technical players occasionally through the years in touring bands, and even on various records he's done. But those early records, these first three, it's all him on acoustic, 12-string, 6-string acoustic, electric, 6-string electric primarily, and other odd instruments, the bouzouki, or not mandolin. His long-term mate, Anthony Thistlethwaite. He was primarily originally a tenor sax player. He also played, he's a multi-instrumentalist, but played a lot of mandolin and electric mandolin, particularly later after the first three albums we're discussing here. When
Yeah, speaking of guitar, one of the things I love so much about Pagan Place is it's just got those lush 12-string acoustics that he never really did before or after to that extent. And I don't know if you've listened much to the George Harrison first triple album, All Things Must Pass, produced by Phil Spector, which is just a
yeah, I've heard
wash.
it.
So yeah, you think about My Sweet Lord or some, which is a wash in like 12-string guitars duplicated with reverb. There's very much that kind of influence on that particular album.
On This Is the Sea.
No, on Pagan Place.
Well, okay, that the
And the
second
song,
album.
and the
Yeah,
song, This Is the Sea. Sure, yeah, that's very strummy as well.
yeah. I think This Is the Sea has was a little more care and a higher in the studio. On the second album, Pagan Place. Yeah. Well, do you want to just? Well, I want to do it, so let's do it. Um, go through song by song, starting with the first album.
Okay, sure.
Are you up for that, or does that
Yeah,
sound
let's
like?
do it.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it indeed. The first on the proper album, the UK release, not that kind of specialty testing the waters American release, is a song called December.
Right.
And that's a pretty it's a pretty big song. And that has this wash of acoustic stringed instruments, which you speak of, and they're not all guitar, right, but most of them are pretty much everything on the track is played by Mike. That's playing the piano, which may well be an acoustic piano on that track, guitar, electric guitar, Belzuki, and then he had the engineer he was using at the time had sort of primitive drum tracks, drum loops, tapes that he used on about half the album, but so it's pretty much all Mike and and a drum machine. It doesn't sound like, back then they didn't sound like drum machines. They approximated the actual sound of tonally of live acoustic drums. That's a pretty big song. And what is he on about? Don't know. But that song affected me greatly. It's one of the great winter songs ever, not just because of the title December. What do you think about that song?
Yeah, I love it. And I never really thought about, the strumminess of it is very much kind of an anticipation of some of the tonality of Pagan Place.
And the piano on it, which sounds more acoustic to me, but there's the wash of the mix. Originally most of the first albums were recorded in this, on 8-track, in an 8-track studio, not 16 or 24 tracks, or God help us, 48 tracks. And indeed, he released the remaster of the album from 2002. The original 8-track version of it, which is basically the same song, but sonically it's slightly different.
He was in a band called Funhouse at that time, and he went into the studio in December 1981 and played all the instruments himself. They had a drum machine that he could use. He said it was just a Lynn drum track, and he played guitar and piano over the top and sang. There's no bass guitar on it, just the bottom end of the piano.
Right. So he's got this bubbling thing going. Ding, 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 ding. Pardon me. December is the coolest month. Ding, 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 ding. Yeah, it's very well. Yeah, it's a very emotive, atmospheric track, and considering how organic the instrumentation is, especially, and well, not necessarily electric, compared to, say, his peers at the time, say U2, Big Country, Simple Minds, were very, very electric. There's a lot of electric hardware going on in their contemporary records of the time. Mike, utilized a lot of, just acoustic, instrumentation. So it's kind of a misnomer, sort of the big music. It's actually, he's using small instruments a lot of the time.
Now here's a question I wanted to ask you before we got into this album, just a little side thing. You had made the comment, we're talking about his piano playing, it was distinctive, and you said you thought his guitar playing was very distinctive.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to ask you what stood out to you about his guitar playing.
Okay, here's a little observation. You're a guitar player. I was once playing some tracks from the first two albums to an erstwhile buddy of mine who I played in several bands with, and he's a work partner, for a couple decades. Marty Dodge. Marty, he'd been to actually music school for guitar. He's a guy who could actually play, like, actually mimic Hendrix. And Hendrix is not, it's not like some 13-year-old who can play Van Halen shit down at Guitar Center. So his big heroes were Hendrix and Neil Young. But I used to tease him and call him, "Hi, you're a Foghat guy," because he's really good at that, fluid, blues-based.
Sure.
He's a real musician. He wasn't a garage musician like I was. But in any case, so what is up with his guitar playing? And it often sounds like it's just slightly either sharp or flat, his tuning, meaning Mike Scott's.
Mm-hmm.
And Marty kind of, he said, well, that's an old tradition. Guys do that. There's all kinds of alternate tunings, and even in straight concert tuning, sometimes a guy will, tune his guitar or a couple strings a little bit sharp or a little bit flat for effect. Right. And I don't know if that's the case with Mike, but I often heard that in some of his tracks. From the first album, the song "It Should Have Been You," which is not one of my favorite songs on the record, features that in his electric guitar. It sounds like it's slightly sharp or vaguely out of tune. And that's not the only one. There are other tracks as well. It's sort of in the unsettling quality. Let me just look at the track list. Girl Called Johnny, no guitar on that. The 3-Day Man also has that quality. The song Gala, which is sort of an epic number. It's piano based, but there's plenty of electric guitar. And on the reissue, the 2002 Abbey Road remaster, they use the entire unedited version of Gala, which is a big sort of epic song, sort of slow mid-tempo. But again, Mike's electric guitar, you can't really call them leads, and you can't call it rhythm. He's sort of, it's coloration. It's oftentimes has this sort of, it sounds like it's almost out of tune, or a little bit sharp, or a little bit flat, or something. Savage Earth Heart would be another one. So anyway, that is one of the things that I initially thought was unique about his guitar playing, and he didn't use at the time, we're talking about, 83 when I discovered the Waterboys, say The Edge from U2 or Stuart Adamson and Bruce Watson from Big Country or Charlie Burchill from Simple Minds. These guys use loads of effects pedals.
Right.
They're serious gearheads. And so, they had heavily textured, processed sounds, which, they utilized live as well. That's, how they played. And Mike Scott's sound, it seemed just very organic. It just seemed like, I don't know, it could be a Rolling Stones, guitar track or something, just, very organic and basic. I'm talking about his electric playing.
And one thing interesting too, to contrast with U2 or Simple Minds, is like those bands had Charlie, in the case of Simple Minds, or The Edge of U2, kind of the guitar wizard mastermind in the corner with all his effects, whereas Mike was both the singer, the songwriter, and the guitar player often, playing live.
Well, the arranger, the producer, the de facto producer for actually probably most of his career, if not all of it.
Yeah, I mean, all kinds of hats, but I'm just talking about like the vocal and the guitar here.
Right. He seemed like a guy who knew what he was going for, in his head, or his heart, just a guy who knew what he's going for. But, he didn't really have a dedicated band, and somehow he got the record contract with Enzyme Records, and they gave him free reign.
Right.
To kind of do what he wanted to do. And so, many tracks, quite a few tracks from his first sessions, they spread out to, they appeared on, later records, his next album, A Pagan Place. And, some tracks from A Pagan Place sessions in 84 would, show up in one form or another on 1985's This Is a Sea album, which is, a fine old tradition, that many artists and bands, have used through the decades. But
and that's a recurring theme, too, that, he'll get someone who believes in him from the record company and just let him spend a couple years just, recording all this stuff and doing what he wants to do. And to your point, it sounds like he's got a very clear idea what he wants, and is notoriously kind of can be difficult to work with and kind of contrarian. Sometimes people will suggest one thing and then he'll deliberately not choose that thing. So he's very can be very single-minded in the studio in terms of his vision, I think.
Yeah, I would guess so. I'd never heard that he was, a difficult person to work with, but who knows? Maybe was he Prince? Was he Miles Davis? I don't know. But he definitely, had something that sounds he was going for, and you can hear, even though they're actually low-tech recordings, technology-wise and sonically, and even instrumentation-wise, there's a searching going on, a musical searching.
Yeah, there's a big music aspect to it. Yeah.
Well, but there's a lot of smallness, too. So the next song on the first album is a girl called Johnny. Well, that's not big music. It's very small music. It's got a jazz blues, up-tempo jaunty feel, just primarily piano, Mike's piano, and drums, and Anthony Thistlethwaite's tenor sax. No bass. Oh, it doesn't sound like big music to me. It sounds like, blues from the mid-late 50s, early 60s. And that was released as a single. and it's an odd song. Apparently, it's written about and dedicated to Patti Smith.
Well, she's got a song called Redondo Beach, where she's got the character Johnny.
Yeah, right. From the Horses album.
And there's a whole story where Mike was a fan and he had a fanzine, and he made contact with Patti Smith, and Lenny Kaye helped set him up, like got him a hotel room and a ticket, and they covered the expense of Mike Scott's hotel room, and he was able to interview Patti Smith in 1978.
Yeah. Patti had she had a lot of fans in the UK. She briefly dated Paul Simonon from the Clash. Yeah, she was and is a big deal. The 3-Day Man is the next track 3. It's a jaunty up tempo. I don't think it's anything great, but it's primarily just guitars and a drum machine. Track 4, Gala, is sort of a big sort of pseudo epic, primarily piano, Mike's piano, and then his overdubbed electric guitar, the primary, and a drum machine.
Mm.
And it's a stirring story or imagery of a young woman in pain, in her misery, and seeking her mother for solace. But his language, Mike Scott's mother was she was an English teacher in Edinburgh in Scotland, where he was born and raised, and encouraged and turned Mike on to reading. And so Mike, his literary references come fast and furious. Some obvious, some less obvious, some you actually have to kind of do some research to figure out where it comes from. On the remaster from 2002, the original track listing before the record company nixed it was to be 9 songs, and track number 5 would be a song called Where Are You When I Need You? And it's a very moving tale. It's piano based and no rhythm section, and it's a young man's angst. It's an angsty song, but it's not a big full tilt rocker, but it's a lovely atmospheric piece, which Mike specializes in, without the effects of, say, Daniel Lanois or, some big name producer using a lot of electronic hardware. It's one of the great beauties of Mike Scott's work is that he can create deep and high atmosphere.
Yeah, with the actual instruments as opposed to the effects.
Right.
Yeah,
the next track, from the original album would be "I Will Not Follow." Right. The correlation or similarity in the title of the song obviously leads to U2's famous breakout single "I Will Follow" from their debut album, Boy. And lyrically, who knows what he would say? Is it a response or something to U2? Does it have anything to do with
according
the
to Mike
U2
Scott,
track?
He point blank said it has nothing to do with that song.
I believe it. I believe that. To me, it has zero to do with it. U2's "I Will Follow" is a beautiful song, rocks really hard. But this song rocks really hard too. It's got a mid-tempo, funk feel to it.
And he must have felt strongly about it because he performed it on like the Old Grey Whistle Test, for example.
Yeah, he performed it for a couple of years, afterwards. But that was the debut of Kevin Wilkinson on drums. He's a great drummer,
right?
And would play on most of the next album, A Pagan Place, and a very, very uncharacteristically funky, meaning 80s funk, or actually mid to late 70s funky bass from a guy, I think Nick Linden, I believe. Mm-hmm. And I know he played in the band live for several years. But it's a very funky track, and the guitars are pretty subdued and distorted and grinding, electric guitar. But it's Anthony Thistlethwaite's tenor sax that provides the melodic instrumental hook for the song. Right. I think it's double tracked to give a sort of a horn section feel. But Thistlethwaite, just a wonderful sax player. He played with Mike for another decade or so as a multi-instrumentalist, and it had a great sound, a really brash, loud tenor sound, sort of like Clarence Clemens with the E Street Band, or Bobby Keys' work with the Stones. A really very, very brash, and just a great player with just a great tone, Thistlethwaite. So I will not follow, excuse me. It's great. It's got an angry feel to it, and the funky bass, and it's got sort of an angry feel, quoting Blake's, Tiger, Tiger poem, and it has sort of a distinct anti-war sentiment to it. It Should Have Been You is another sort of, I think, a lesser song. Features nice, got a nice sentiment, looking at a friend who's kind of wasted their life, and it's a nice guitar, acoustic and electric guitar figures, but sort of a lesser song, but Mike's lesser songs are often other people's best songs. So next would be, the last song, Savage Earth Heart, on the original. I'll get to that. I've never thought greatly of that either. That's got some very strong lyrics, and Mike had played that for several years, for the next couple of years. And every live performance I've heard of that. In fact, the first time I saw the Waterboys live, they did it, and it's just fierce, ferocious, and Mike plays just, ferocious electric guitar on it. But the song before that is a very interesting song to me, and it's called The Girl in the Swing.
Right.
So, what do we know about that? To me, it's one of his finest songs ever. The atmosphere is it's a slow lope, rhythmically. Features a wonderful organ part, and I forget who the organ player was on that track. It was just before Carl Wallinger had joined the band.
There's someone called Delahaye who played.
Yes, that's correct, organ. Right. I have no idea who that is.
I don't either.
it's primarily just drums, bass, Mike playing bass on that track, I believe, and electric guitar, just an open pick electric guitar. It's a very atmospheric song, and to me, it sounds like really, really cold winter to this day.
Yeah, kind of the sparse arpeggio.
Yeah. Lyrically, vocally, it's just when the guy was young, he was just such an expressive singer. I know, Bono is a really, really great natural singer and whatnot, but Mike didn't, have that range, and maybe didn't want to. But The Girl in the Swing. Now, it took me years to figure out, decades to figure out what it was. And Mike finally said, oh, it's based on the title of a book by Richard Adams. And the title of Adams' book is The Girl in a Swing. And Mike said I contacted Mike years ago through his internet person page, the lovely page, and said he never actually read the book. Well, I tracked down a copy on the internet, a used, beat up paperback version, and did read it. Richard Adams is most known for his classic, I really mean classic, book, Watership Down, from, I think, 1971 it was first released. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know anything about Richard Adams, if you haven't read Watership Down, well, you're missing out on a huge piece of modern English literature. English language literature. Yes, the guy was an Englishman. Just a tremendous writer. And his book, The Girl in a Swing, is completely unlike his usual modus operandi, which a Watership Down sort of presented to the world, which is adventures of unanthropomorphized animals. In the case of Watership Down, it's rabbits and rabbit culture. Lapine culture is, what Adams called it, sort of like, equine culture would be horse culture, or bovine culture would be cow culture. And essentially it's the Odyssey, but it's with rabbits. And he followed that up with several books, Plague Dogs, two dogs from a research facility escape and try to find their way somewhere to freedom. And they're not anthropomorphized. It's all in the culture of, in canine culture. But the only thing anthropomorphized is that they have to speak English, otherwise you wouldn't be able to read the book.
Yeah, but what about no Girl in a Swing?
That's why it's so different, because it's actually human beings, and it's really, really weird and really spooky, the book.
And apparently, I was just reading about it a little bit. He never directly said, he got it based on the book, but there is a girl that the narrator sees swinging, apparently, in the novel.
Oh, yes. And it's a very, very frightening part of the book. Oh, okay. I think I've seen it described from contemporary reviews of the novel, maybe from the 70s, 74, 75, maybe something like that, as an erotic thriller. Okay. I wouldn't know what that means, or if that's sort of a genre of literature, but it's a horror story. There might be something supernatural in it, but there may not be. There might just be a whole lot of mental illness in it. It's really, really spooky and really weird and unlike anything. I've read most everything that Richard Adams has written. He released several books, just straight nonfiction books about, traveling to the North Pole and, with zoologists, collaborating with zoologists and stuff about, natural, life, animal life around the world. And I haven't read some of those, but it's really strange, a very strange book, and really powerful, and it'll scare the bejesus out of you. And it's not necessarily supernatural. Essentially, it's a sort of a closed down, sort of very conservative, quiet Englishman whose job in life, he's a fine china dealer and seller. And he meets a young German woman who he becomes obsessed with, and, well, they get married, and she has some secrets, and things unravel from there, and it's a long book, but Adams is just a wonderful writer. I don't know why he's not more acclaimed. Certainly, Watership Down is acclaimed, and I could see Mike Scott having written a song or two based around the book Watership Down. That would certainly be in Mike Scott's purview and modus operandi. And we'll get to some of that later, that he actually has written several songs directly about or utilizing parts or even just the title of various tomes, various books. So that's the basic album right there, the original release. The outtakes, you can't consider them outtakes. Mike Scott's outtakes are like, I don't know, it's kind of a cliche to say, oh, his weakest songs are other people's best songs, or blah, blah, blah. It seems that the guy, when he records a track, he's really inside the song. I don't know what a Mike Scott or Waterboys throwaway would sound like. In later years, on the box set, say, for Fisherman's Blues, or the Room to Roam sessions and tour, certainly there was a lot of very lighthearted stuff, them joking around in the studio, or, in the pub playing Sgt. Pepper's, or, and so he released that stuff, which is great to hear. Like, Mike really does have a sense of humor, because so often his music seems so serious. But my point being that the stuff that was recorded, and these are considered bonus tracks. I have the CD version, not vinyl, but wow, these are bonus tracks? Something fantastic. Ready for the Monkey House, Another Kind of Circus. These are songs that I think are better than, or I prefer to, a couple of songs on the proper album: 3-Day Man, Savage Earth Heart, It Should Have Been You, Boy in Black Leather, just Mike and piano, and it's almost like a Springsteen song from his very early years, from one of his first two albums, The Character Studies.
One of the things that struck me about Boy in Black Leather, I think, is there's a character named Johnny in that, which I thought was an interesting thematic thing, with Girl Called Johnny too.
Well, there's a bunch of characters in it. It's it has a feel to me of one of those early Springsteen records from his first two albums, where there's just this cast of characters, and they all have names and nicknames, and so that's the first album. I don't know if you what do you got to say about it, or do you want to move on to the next album?
One thing that's coming up on the horizon is Carl Wallinger entering the picture, which I think will come up for the next album, right? Is that A Pagan Place? Or okay. So Pagan one thing that came out in the book that was kind of interesting is Carl Wallinger was kind of like the other side of the coin to Mike Scott. They both were like basically super creative frontman types, who each should be leading their own band, which Carl Wallinger eventually did, splitting off to do his band World Party. But apparently, he provided a lot of lightness and fun in the studio, and Mike had a reputation of being like more serious at that time.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that comes out with the interviews with Anthony Thistlethwaite and the trumpet player, and that Mike was just more intense at that time, and Carl brought, he was both a musical genius and brought a certain lightness and fun to the recording.
These interviews with Thistlethwaite and Wallinger, you're referring to Ian Abrams' book, Strange Boat?
That's right.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Which I haven't read yet, and we'll be looking it up on the public library system to see if it's available.
Yeah, and there's no interview with Carl Wallinger, but there's a lot of interviews with Thistlethwaite and also the guy who played the trumpet.
Roddy Lorimer.
Yeah, Roddy Lorimer.
He was a big session player.
Yeah.
Played with a band called Kick Horns, and they were sort of the UK. I think they were London based, but the UK version of, say, the Uptown Horns from New York City in the 80s.
Yeah, and all these interesting things emerged too, like the big music.
So, yeah, are we into A Pagan Place and the arrival of the great Welshman, Carl Wallinger?
Sure.
And his great sensibilities. Yeah, this album to me was really, it wasn't released in the U.S., and so, I got an import copy, but it was a revelation. And I guess this is kind of where the term, the big music, and I don't know who coined the term, if that's, Mike Scott's term. Certainly has a song called The Big Music on the album, which was released as a single, and it seemed like a really unlikely single for 1984, being that it sounds pretty much like a mid-60s American soul R&B track. But it was a revelation, the liveness of the band, and Kevin Wilkinson on drums on every track, rather than drum machines that he used on much of the first album. So yeah, the album starts off with "Church Not Made with Hands." It makes U2 and maybe not Big Country at their best, but Simple Minds, certainly The Alarm, but these other great acts that were going on at the time. It sounds nothing like them. It sounds nothing like them. It's a mid-tempo rocker. You can dance to it. It's got Anthony Thistlethwaite on tenor and Roddy Lorimer on trumpet, doing a full-throated, section work like Stax Volt, soul music section work, but it's got the feel of, say, Van Morrison's, early to mid 70s work. It's just a breathtaking piece of music. Just a wonderful lyric, just completely life-affirming without ignoring the pain that is human life.
I think the Van Morrison comparison is apt. Just the strumminess of it. There was some Celtic influences, a lot of resonances there. I was just looking up if you'd said A Pagan Place wasn't released in the U.S., but it was released in the U.S.
Oh, maybe it was, but not at the time I bought it. The only available copy was an import copy on Ensign Records, and that's the version I bought. If they did eventually release it in the U.S. for much cheaper, that's great.
I
But
remember
Church
buying a
Not.
lot of these as British ones too, and get 12 inches. It was always fun to get the British version when you could.
Well, of course, they always sounded better too. They
That's right,
just
better quality
higher
by.
quality.
That's right.
It's exactly. You're right. And of course, the 12 inches, which are also generally imports too, sound
Bonus
even
tracks.
better because they're mastered hotter and have fuller sound because there's
Wider
fewer
grooves.
tracks on them. Right,
Yep.
exactly. All the things she gave me, again, just it's a strange and mysterious sound. And Mike's electric guitar playing is really coming to the fore on this album. Now, Church Not Made with Hands, as the song fades out, it fades out on a Mike, one of his sort of few electric guitar solos. And it just rises and rises. And there's no effects on it. It's just a guitar plugged into an amp. All Things She Gave Me has that sort of off-kilter, vaguely sharp or vaguely flat quality to it. And it might even be, say, a flange, a pedal or something that he's using.
And meanwhile, this groove is just rocking through it. It's just got a really kind of infectious beat to it.
All the Things She Gave Me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And the horn section, again, Thistlethwaite and Roddy Lorimer, just this great, just rising quality to their section work. I don't know if that was, Anto, Anthony Thistlethwaite, his nickname, Anto. It's an easier name to say than Thistlethwaite, Anto. But I don't know if he, wrote those charts or if Mike Scott himself wrote them, or Roddy Lorimer did. But yeah, it's a strange quality for this, and the subject of the song, it might be angsty boy girl, loneliness, loss, but the city's quiet. It's I can't even remember the lyric. The moon's made of cheese and God is a Boy Scout. Just these strange images of a young man.
Check my time by the old town clock.
Right, and he stopped by the watchman in the town, if the watchman's the local constable or what, but just a young guy walking in his thoughts, some very heavy stuff, probably a girl on his mind, and just wonderfully written, just the images.
Yeah.
It's not bearing his soul. That comes on the chorus. When the chorus comes along and the horns.
But yeah, you're right. He's a great lyricist and really knows how to evoke an image.
Right, and often through literary references and often very obscure references.
Or very this song's kind of cinematic almost.
Oh, very much so. And again, this is just, these are the big music. This is small music. This is drums, live drums that sound like a live drum kit, a bass, a piano, acoustic or just electric piano, an electric guitar, a trumpet, and a tenor sax. There's no delays and the Edge, or Simple Minds. It could have been recorded in 1963.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a great atmosphere he was able to achieve with just like really basic recording. Sure, there's reverb, but reverb isn't considered high tech. It certainly wasn't high tech in 1983 and 84 when he's recording this album. So that's another thing that the song, the term "the big music," it's kind of a misnomer in a way. It has its beauty, and I know what it's about. But
I just want to ask you, for this album, do you remember where you first heard it or any songs on it, or did you just buy it and that was the first time you heard it?
Yeah, I just bought it. Yeah, I didn't hear any singles. I certainly didn't have MTV. Nobody I knew had MTV in 1984. Yeah,
Because I remember,
never
I
had
have
it.
a very distinct memory of I was on like a school field trip, and I was must have been a musical thing, like maybe I was in a chorus at the time. Maybe we were going to sing somewhere because I remember the music teacher was on the bus and he had a boombox and he was listening to this on his boombox, and I heard it because I think he was playing it pretty loud, and I was like, "Well, what is this?" And I think that may have been the first time I ever heard the Waterboys was a Pagan Place album. And it was like, "Oh, this is great! I love this."
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I just heard it, in its entirety. Just buying it from probably Orfolk Joke
Sure.
uh, uh, or maybe the Wax Museum down Lake Street. Probably Orfolk, but yeah, I hadn't. Of course, I was just buying everything by all my favorite acts, which tended to be, new current acts, and a lot of them, released, 12-inch singles or, the albums, import albums that you couldn't find in the U.S. or just the U.S. the U.K. version of the album. And so, yeah, I was a record geek,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I heard it, in its fullness, its in entirety, uh, when I got it.
Yeah, well, that was just a little sidebar. Go ahead, proceed with "The Thrill Is Gone" if you like.
Well, yeah, that's a beautiful song. Of course, there's been a couple songs called "The Thrill Is Gone" by other artists
Sure.
through the years. Um, this is actually on the 2002 Abbey Road remaster reissue. It's actually a different take.
Mm,
Vocally, and it's very similar. It's very similar, but
right. Yeah, I noticed that
comp-
actually. Yeah, I kind of did a
it's
double take when I heard that. I was like, "Well, wait a minute."
it's longer.
Yeah.
It's labeled as the unedited version,
Hmm.
but it's not only longer.
It's
It's
different.
actually a different take, and it's not just a different vocal take.
Hmm.
Um, and how I picked up on that, well, just some things, you're so embedded in your psyche, your DNA, or whatever, that by the time you get a re-release or supposedly the same version, your body, your mind just automatically knows, nope, this is different. Yeah, and that's happened with many other acts too. It's like, no, this is ever so slightly different. It's not just a different mix. It's not just a different mastering. It's not just a different vocal. It's actually a different take, similar as it sounds. But it's a sad, quiet song, acoustic based. Um, the next song, "Rags," is a pretty big deal. It's big. It's about, you want to talk big music? Well, this is pretty big. And this isn't, the original lyric, which he would release later on the compilation, "The Secret Life of the Waterboys." It's the same backing track, but with a different vocal and a different lyric, and it's even more startling than this. But this is a startling track. It rocks, high BPMs, hard. It's got the horn section just pumping away. It breaks down at the end. It's just full of atmosphere. It's like you can dance to it. It's got mystery. It's got angst. It's got wonder to it. It's got rage to it. I don't know what I don't know what Mike was on about when he was writing it. But it sounds like something important is going on when that song is playing.
Yeah, it's a great song.
Yeah, it just moves. It just moves and higher and higher. and that's electric guitar, Mike on electric guitar, which he utilizes, does some of his lead playing,
But you're right, it does
idiosyncratic.
kind of rise, like it's got these rising chords, and he sings higher and higher, and it just creates this
Yeah,
sense of drama.
yeah, it's a very, very dramatic piece of music.
Yeah.
And again, it's just a basic instrumentally. It could have been recorded in 1963. It's not high tech 1984 studio or guitar gizmo, guitar effects and delays and all
Yeah,
that.
it was very much both out of time, like the church or something, just doing their own thing, but also it sounds contemporary. But it wasn't trying to sound like Depeche Mode or something trendy.
Yeah, well, the thing with the church, obviously I love the church, is that they used a whole lot of electronic hardware. They had loads of effects on their guitars to create those
True.
great atmospheres. Granted, they're great, great musicians and great players, but that's one of the things about the early Waterboys that, the next incarnation of the Waterboys as well is just how dry. Other than reverb, which is probably in post production, just how dry the instrumentation was.
Right. Yeah. There's not a lot of effects outside of reverb that you hear.
Right.
That's true.
And that's certainly unique for the kind of I loathe I don't loathe, but I don't like the term genre. I don't like generic music. I don't listen to generic music, but sort of the genre, as it were, of the big music. All those other bands who I was a massive fan of at the time were using loads and loads of effects, especially on guitar. That was one of the great appeal of U2 with The Edge. Stuart Adamson and Bruce Watson with Big Country, Charlie Burchill with Simple Minds, Will Sargent from Echo and the Bunnymen. They had these great, interesting guitar sounds, which were heavily created with, and the church as well, heavily accentuated, I should say, with a lot of electronic gizmos. But anyway, we're kind of getting off on that. That's another thing. Next song, the original album. Okay. On the remaster, again, the original title track, they inserted track number 5, a track that was supposed to be on the original album, and Ensign Records nixed it, said it was too long. Some of My Best Friends Are Trains. Wasn't on the original album, and that's supposed to be track number 5. It's a funky mid-tempo number. It's very funny from Mike, talking about his friends who, or somebody calling from Australia to tell him something, and his friends who want to look like Tom Verlaine and Richard Hell, and it's a fun up-tempo number, again, some great sax work from Anthony Thistlethwaite. And who knows what he's on about? Some of My Best Friends Are Trains. What does that mean? What does that mean, Mike? I'll have to listen to it a few more hundred times to figure it out. Somebody Might Wave Back is next from the original album.
A couple songs that are influenced by this book, The Diary of Vikenty Angarov, by this guy, Victor Moravin.
I just looked that up. Moravin, I spelled it phonetically, and I couldn't get any hits. I got an obituary from some guy in northern Minnesota. Victor Moravin? How do you spell that?
M-U-R-A-V-I.
Oh, M-U-R-A. Hold on. All right. Thank you. Yeah, I just looked that up earlier today on your suggestion when we were chatting last night. Okay, go ahead. You were saying?
So I think, Red Army Blues is influenced by this book, The Diary of the Kenti Engroff, or it's also called Aurora Borealis, about
Okay,
this
well,
guy's.
we're missing somebody who might wave back, but that's the next one. But
No, but
somebody went.
I'm no, hold on. I'm getting
Okay,
to
so
that.
I'm sorry. All right, go ahead.
Um, I think somebody might way back also references that book.
Well, it's from an Elvis Presley movie. That apparently that's what Mike said. But okay, it certainly has the feel of being on a Russian train, doesn't it?
Yeah. I heard about the Elvis reference too, but I just I'd have to look at the lyrics, but it seemed like that track was also kind of referencing that Russian soldier experience.
Okay, I've never heard of this. Now, Red Army Blues is coming up in a couple of songs, and
Yeah.
you're saying that this chap Victor Moravin is based on what a biography or something that he wrote,
Yeah, you can just look up Pagan Place on Wikipedia. I'm
which
talking
might.
about the album. I'm saying look up the album.
Okay. Uh, all right. So Victor Moravin survived the war. I'm assuming he was sent to a gulag. Is this an autobiography or is it an historical piece? This Moravin chap. Oh, okay,
He's
whatever. I'll
he's
look it
talking.
up.
It's an autobiography.
Okay,
But
so he was
but
a
anyway, my
he was.
point is when
Oh,
I read the album, somebody might wave back. When I heard the lyrics to that, 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm riding the overnight train.
yeah.
We're riding to some place where I've never been. I always imagined that was like a soldier, on his way to or from war. And maybe I was just, looking at it now, it's pretty vague. Could be
I
about anything, but I always made that connection when I heard it.
I had a very similar feeling when I first heard it. I didn't know yet about because there was no internet or whatever. I didn't know about the Elvis quote. It has that feeling. There's a lot of instrumentation, Mike's bouzouki playing and whatnot on that track, and others like the first album that has this sort of feel of winter, Eastern European, Russian, folk music idioms, right?
Exactly. Apparently, he had Mike had a Dan Electro. It's called a Dan Electro Belzuki electric 12-string guitar.
A Belzuki, right? So that's like different from the traditional acoustic bouzouki.
But I'm sure it sounds very similar.
Yeah, okay. It's like an electric mandolin,
Right.
based on traditional mandolin. Okay. When I used to listen to this record when it first came out, and there was a lot of winter listening going on at that time of my life. For some reason, I don't associate this album with summer or even spring.
No, I don't either.
That track, it does have a very wintry cold, and the brisk rhythm, just the kick drum and the kind of percussion going along. It has sort of the feeling of a fast moving train.
Exactly.
And
brisk is a good way to describe it.
Yeah, and the instrumentation, it has this sort of strange Eastern European, Russian, maybe even some Hasidic, folk music idioms in it.
Yeah, so that's probably another reason that just led me in my imagination to that place, because of the instrumentation.
Thanking you, Jed, for the heads up. I'll be looking this guy up, this Victor Moravin.
And like I said, I've got a copy now, which you're welcome to borrow.
Oh, okay. There's that. Yeah. But we got another song to go before we get to yet another Victor Moravin track, right?
Right.
We got the big music. And that was a single from the album. I had the 12-inch, and the two B-sides are, to me, far superior to the track. The actual single, big music. From the 12-inch I'm assuming it was a
But now you've got me
UK.
curious. What two songs could be better than the big music?
And both of them act as a piece. Do you just want to get to talk about the big music, or should I just tell you what the B-sides were?
Go ahead, do the big reveal. What are they?
You know what the cover of the single looks like. It's from the video shoot. They did a video up on the Scottish Highlands with
Yeah, I just saw that for the first time yesterday, and I was just reading.
Yeah, Mike
before
with
we
his
spoke.
12-string acoustic, Anto
Mike
with his
didn't like.
sax,
Mike
and
didn't like the
Kevin
video.
Wilkinson playing like a snare drum and a cymbal. It's not a great video. Well, it's got atmosphere. It looks to me like it's highly influenced by Big Country's Wonderland single.
Yeah, I mean the setting
which came out the
is
same year.
incredible. It's this beautiful area of Scotland, but Mike apparently had very little control over it. It just felt as a little too stereotypical.
Okay, it was obviously they're going for effect, with the video. The song, it's a beautiful song. There's no way about it. It seems an unlikely single for 1984, considering what was going on in popular music, especially in the UK in 1984. It seems like a really good album track. It seems an unlikely single. It's got, the backing vocals, the girls, doing the backing vocals in a sort of soul R&B manner, American soul R&B manner, and it's got the horns doing their thing, and Thistlethwaite takes some great not even solos. He's pretty much playing all over the track. And it's got nice electric guitar figures from Mike, but it's cut time. It's a very mid-tempo and cut time, but it's got tension to it, and it's big.
No pun intended.
Well, yeah, pun actually is intended. The singles from the 12-inch that I had were two songs. One is called "The Earth Only Endures." And it's just Mike and his 12-string acoustic and some effects of a thunderstorm and a rainstorm, which may sound cheesy, but it's not cheesy. The song still kind of makes me choke up. And apparently it's an American Indian, Native American, Lakota Sioux death song. And it's maybe Mike's English translation of it.
What's it called?
It's called "The Earth Only Endures."
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
And it's just a beautiful piece of music. I think I saw him do it live. He's playing electric guitar rather than the 12-string acoustic, and he only did an abbreviated version, like a minute and a half. It's a big production. It's not mainly. It's him and his acoustic, 12-string, and effects of a thunderstorm and rain in the background, which kind of fade in and out of the mix. The next song, the third song is another piece, which references Native American history and culture, and it's a song that Mike actually plays drums on. And no, he's not a great drummer, and it's not a great drum mix, but the song is ferocious. It's acoustic guitar driven with electric guitar figures over it, kind of clean electric guitar, and just Mike overdubbing bass and drums. And it's to me, it's one of I think the finest thing Mike Scott's ever done. And eventually both of these tracks were released on the early 90s compilation, The Secret Life of the Waterboys, which is, B-sides and alternate mixes and versions. But this song is, it's called Bury My Heart. And it's, from the book Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee by, what's the writer's name? I can't remember. But it's a chilling historical account of. It's not necessarily specific to the genocide, because that's what it was, of Native American peoples in North America in the 19th century. But it's cloaked in language so that it's more universal, more timeless and universal. And it's from the point of view of probably a soldier, a high-ranking soldier, possibly even a politician or policymaker. And apart from the title, Bury My Heart, at Wounded Knee, it doesn't really necessarily directly. It's a more universal and timeless lyric that Mike came up with, and it's harrowing. And the song is a fast tempo, quick tempo to it, a quick, jaunty tempo. And it's, I believe he meant the song to annoy people, actually. It's just a startling piece of music, and it's about as low tickets that you can get. It sounds like it was recorded on 4-track. It's probably recorded on 8-track, but it sounds like it's recorded on 4-track, all by Mike playing everything. So anyway, those were the B-sides, those two songs, Bury My Heart and The Earth Only Endures, from the Big Music single, at least the 12-inch single. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you know those songs. They're both available. If the record's still in print.
Yeah, I know. It's not as well as you, but I know.
Okay, yeah. Both those songs made a huge impression on me, as much as almost anything on the album proper, the Pagan Place album.
Okay.
But we're getting to Red Army Blues. There you go. Track number 8.
This is the one that was directly influenced by this book, this account of this Soviet soldier, and then he winds up in a gulag. And Mike's kind of recounts this story in a little miniature cinematic musical version in this wonderful song.
Yeah, it's a miniature, and it's cinematic. It's also literary, but to point out a larger thing. I mean, not to get into politics with a capital P, but some of this is going on today in various parts of the world, including our own. But why so many millions, we're talking millions, not just hundreds of thousands, but millions of Red Army soldiers who had participated in the liberation of Germany and Berlin, which is brutal. And that's why the United States and Great Britain allowed the Soviets to take it. The Soviets had more of an axe to grind than the Americans or the Brits. Mm-hmm. And it was brutal. And we know what happened after that, the Cold War and the division, East Germany, West Germany. But what happened to the soldiers of the Red Army, the saviors, the actual, real, de facto defeaters of Nazism, what happened to them afterwards And why did it happen? Well, millions and millions many were killed outright. Many, many more were sent to northern Siberia, to Gulag, and the various archipelagos, Gulag archipelagos, that Solzhenitsyn wrote about later. And what was the reason? The reason is that they had come in contact with American and British soldiers and had experienced, say, the joy of liberation, and maybe experienced, God help us, Louis Armstrong or Benny Goodman or Mitch, Glenn Miller, or Jimmy Shands in the UK, or whatever, cool music. In other words, they experienced the West, the good life, what could be, courtesy of the cultures that were being formed, and already had been formed in the United States and Britain, of relative freedom, relative, personal liberty, the arts, meaning the most accessible art form, which is music. And as the song points out, that Comrade Stalin thought we'd become too westernized. So that was, that's the rationale, and that's what Mike Scott points out in this, as he put it, this miniature. And it's a long song. It's, it's 6 minutes long, 7 minutes long. Again, the song has a coldness to the atmosphere, to just instrumentally. Again, it's bass, bass, electric guitar, drums. Anthony Thistlethwaite have this mournful sax motif that he uses after every verse. It's a very mournful, slow mid-tempo number. A strange chord progression. It's not a blues, an American blues progression. It's not a 1-4-5 or a 12 bar or anything like that. But it's a big deal of a song. Is it the big music? I don't know. That's whatever. But it's a big deal of a song, and I will be looking up this Victor Morvan guy. And yeah. Hopefully, you can loan me the book if the library doesn't have it. There's just huge atmosphere that the guy's creating with kind of a conservative, not conservative, but a very traditional instrumental lineup.
Yeah, it's 8 minutes and 6 seconds, and it really is dramatic. It tells a story, and the dropping and the building of the music just suits the narrative perfectly.
Yeah, the young man, the protagonist, whose point of view is the song, the lyric is told. This great line. 17 years old, never kissed a girl. And then later, we howled to Berlin. I met my first American. He looked a lot like me. He had the same kind of farmer's face. Said he was from somewhere called Hazard, Tennessee, which, Mike, maybe there is a Hazard, Tennessee, but Hazard is next door in Kentucky. But maybe he just used it to make a rhyme.
Another brilliant thing in that song is he used a traditional Russian melody that that do 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 do.
Right. That's yeah.
That's a very traditional.
Yeah.
It just evokes that place.
Sure. Exactly. That's what I was trying to get at when we were talking about Somebody Might Wave Back. Mm-hmm. It has this just the melody, the progression. And, Anthony Thistlethwaite plays, mandolin on it as well as the sax. And, has that great,
Right.
16th note strumming. Very, very evocative. I mean, evocative of weather, not just location, but weather, meaning really bitter cold winter.
Sure.
It's just a stunning piece of, music, but art,
Yeah, and totally unique. To your point, it didn't sound like U2. It didn't sound like Simple Minds. It was a real unique sound that was all Mike Scott's and collaborators.
How did that guy ever get a record company in such liberty within his record contracts? Like, who is this guy? What is he doing?
Because that pattern would persist where he was able to work on Fisherman's Blues for like years and use up all that studio time. And one thing that came out in this Abrams book too is even in these early sessions, apparently someone at the record company had heard him like in one of his early bands. They did like a BBC session or something, and it was so captivated by Mike. He got this record deal, and but this thing about using up studio time and tape started right from the get-go. He was able to, kind of hypnotize these record companies to do that.
The executive you're talking about, and I think Mike writes about this in the liner notes to the compilation, The Secret Life of the Waterboys. I think it was not Funhouse, but it was a short-lived band between Funhouse and the Waterboys called The Red and the Black. It's the name of the band.
Yeah.
And there's a track on that compilation, The Secret Life of the Waterboys, called Out of Control. And there have been many songs by different acts through the years called Out of Control, and many of them are really great. U2, Stiff Little Fingers, the Rolling Stones, all have great songs called Out of Control. So not a terribly original song title, but the song it sounds like a Waterboy song from one of the first two albums. But it sort of portrays the first moments leading up to a nuclear first strike. It's a harrowing song, and it has Mike just completely do an absolute freak out electric guitar solo at the end of the song. And I believe the guy who signed it to Enzyme Records, I could check, but I'm not going to do it right now. But supposedly he was listening to a tape of this, or maybe heard it. He was recorded, I believe, at the BBC. Whatever source he heard it from, supposedly he almost crashed his car.
Right.
Listening to this song, and he said, "I'm absolutely determined to find the guy who's responsible for this song and sign him to a record label." I think that's how the story goes. But I haven't read the book. I'm looking forward to it, the Abrams book. But that track really is strong. It really is startling, Out of Control. Just a dialogue between people. They know nuclear first strike is coming within minutes, and what they're saying to each other, what they're thinking. And but instrumentally, yes, it's pretty startling, especially when Mike Scott does his freak out guitar solo. Well, on the original album, where the last song is the title track, A Pagan Place.
Right.
Yeah, and apparently that's taken from a book I haven't read, and it may be one of those books that maybe Mike never read. It's by an Irish writer named Edna O'Brien, as the title of that Mike took it from. And from what I've read about the book, and I doubt I'd ever find a copy in the library system, it's about a young a young girl in the 30s and 40s, I guess Ireland, and her experience of life. But it's a pretty startling, a pretty strong title, wouldn't you say? A Pagan Place.
Yeah, there's so many different interesting resonances. I think of a song like Savage Earthheart. There's
Right.
a positive thing of like, just this organic Mother Earth kind of pagan magic.
But
But
it
then,
could mean anything. It could have the other. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
that's where I'm going. It's kind of a nice conclusion to the Red Army Blues. You think about what happened in the Soviet Union, where they basically outlawed religion. And now you're in this pagan place, meaning non-spiritual. So
Right.
you just have all these kinds of interesting connections as the conclusion to the album. Not to mention, it's just a very powerful kind of spiritual lament in a way.
Very well put, dude. Very well put,
Thanks.
Jed. That's exactly, well, what you just said. Yeah, it's strong. It's moving. It's emotive. It's cerebral, yet it's other and beyond, which is the essence of spirituality or soul or organized or disorganized religion. It's sort of all encompassing. Yeah.
And I think you mentioned the word spiritual. Like that's another thing that really appealed to me about the Waterboys, especially at this time. Is I really felt like at that age, as a teenager, I felt like a spiritual seeker looking for something beyond like conventional religion. And this just really seemed like something you're looking for cultural touchstones at that age. And that message, that spiritual message really resonated with me.
Certainly the Waterboys and other music I was listening to at the time had that effect. I'm not going to go into it now. One of the things, the musical aspect of the Waterboys on these three albums, but certainly the next two even more so, is that they're physical. And in fact, the next two albums, Fisherman's Blues and all those sessions and The Room to Roam, those are even more earthbound.
Well, yes and no. I mean, Don't Bang the Drum is a very spiritual song, but it's also very driving.
And so that's the thing about the Waterboys, is this organic feel to the music, in spite of the layered 12-string guitars, which are going to happen on the next record even more so. And
yeah, I think organic is a really nice word, especially to me, for the Pagan Place, with all those mandolins and bazookas and 12-string guitars and even the trumpets and the electric guitars. It does feel very organic and just breathes in a certain beautiful way.
It does, and but it actually has kind of the atmosphere that I was getting from maybe those first two U2 albums or Big Country's debut. But it's like, no, I understand what these are doing. And in fact, individually, the instruments aren't that interesting. There's no edge, there's no Stuart Adamson.
Yeah, it's about all pieces in a jigsaw puzzle and how they're fitting together. Almost.
Right, it's a huge, it's
tapestry.
A tapestry, but it's more the whole than the sum of the pieces. It's a pretty startling piece of music. Again, it's two chords. The title song, A Pagan Place. It's masked acoustic guitars, 12 strings, mandolins.
It's almost like a mantra.
Yeah, and it just keeps going and building, and why did he come here? Who gave him the key? What? It's like he's asking questions, but it's a pagan place he's talking about. What could that mean? What could that mean? Yeah, I really would like to read Edna O'Brien's book. That in itself sounds interesting, but I think it's one of those things. I don't know if Mike's ever said so, but one of the kind of like, Richard Adams, A Girl on a Swing, that he actually never read, but he just, he was, just turned on by the title. And as we've already discussed, just the title, A Pagan Place, is just so loaded, just so, with so much, import. That is, well, you could write anything about it. Whatever, you could be the Archies or the Ramones and have a song called "A Pagan Place." It would probably be great, So that's the Pagan Place album.
Yeah.
You've got again bonus tracks. They're not bonus tracks. They're as strong as anything on the record. The Late Train to Heaven, which is an early version of Be My Enemy, which will come out on the next album. This is a C. Different lyrics, different band, completely different track. I Love That Kills. It's the instrumental version of this, and it's Carl Wallinger on piano playing, which to my ears is Chicago's Color My World. Do you remember that track? It's a single. Ding, 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 on the piano, right?
Yeah.
And that's the motif, Carl Wallinger's piano motif. Well, this is the instrumental version. The same track, but with the vocals, appears on, again, The Secret Life of the Waterboys. And it's just bass guitar, piano, and drums. Or not even guitar. Just bass, piano, and drums. But the lyric and Mike's vocal delivery is one of the greatest things he's ever done. And lyrically, it sounds like William Butler Yeats to me. A Love That Kills. And this is just the instrumental, the backing track. I don't know why he relegated the full vocal track to that compilation album. The Madness Is Here Again. Oh, I'm sorry. The Madness Is Here Again is the original version of Be My Enemy.
Oh, okay.
Late Train to Heaven is another up-tempo train song, which doesn't have the Eastern European Russian feel to it, but Mike's got enough of those songs already. Kathy is next of the extra songs, and the original of that is a song written by Nicky Sudden, and that's where Mike originally heard Anthony Thistlethwaite, his sax playing. It was on Nicky Sudden's version, which I still haven't ever heard. I've had a couple Nicky Sudden albums, and I really like them a lot.
Yeah, me too. Just as a little sidebar, I remember being in the Nicky Sudden and the Jacobites in high school, and
with Dave Cusworth, and yeah.
And
right.
This may be what appealed to you too. He just looked really cool, right? Like,
well, they both did. Yeah, they both looked like Mike. Mike looked like them too at the time.
Well, though that came out in the book that Nicky Sudden said he noticed, like, every time he'd see Mike, like, on TV, it's like Mike basically stole my look.
They were both trying to look like Mick or Keith in 1967.
The chain goes back, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, bless them all. They're all, stylish hip dudes. And Mike still looks great today. I can do without the cowboy hats, but Mike's always been sartorially speaking, pretty sharp looking guy. Obviously eats well and exercises, so he's got that going for him too. But Kathy, it's a beautiful song, just a little small portrait of a woman who, just a girl named Kathy, and her foibles and picadillos. Again, featuring Anthony Thistlethwaite, but I've never heard Nikki Southern's version. Very short, small song. The last song on the Pagan Place remaster, Abbey Road remaster from 2002 is long song, 9 minutes long, Down Through the Dark Streets. Mm-hmm. And by God, if that doesn't evoke, I don't know, early, mid-19th century London or some other godforsaken city, Manchester or Coventry or Liverpool or something, mm-hmm. Some kind of Oliver Twist thing. It's stark and it's slow and it's just wrapped in, but it's not that icy, Russian, Eastern European atmosphere he created on, say, that we've already discussed, say on, Red Army Blues or Somebody Might Wave Back. It somehow evokes, Britain at the beginning of the industrial age. It's just the lyrical imagery and the feeling, and beautiful, beautiful violin work. And it's not Steve Wickham. This is before Steve Wickham, before Mike had met Steve. And it's very different from Steve's, Irish fiddle playing. A mournful sort of tone. Sort of like Susie Honeyman, the great Scottish, fiddle player for the Mekong, something like that. Just a mournful song of just meet me down in the dark, through the dark city streets, and the chestnuts, roasting on an open fire. Now, okay, we all know, the old Bing Crosby Christmas song. It ain't that. It evokes something, a time I never lived in, you never lived in, but somehow mid-19th century.
That's a thing too. Chestnuts, served like roasted during wintertime in London is something street vendors still do.
Yeah, okay. So have you had them? Have you ate them?
Oh yeah, they're super delicious. And it's almost like they roast them on the top of a big, it's almost like a drum or a garbage can or something, this big metal kind of drum. And they're absolutely delicious. You get them in a little paper bag and they're warm. It's great.
That's mentioned and evoked, a line in the song "Down Through the Dark Streets."
Oh, okay.
It's not a happy song at all. It's beyond mournful, but it's not like anybody's doing anything wrong in the song. Or it's not like a boy-girl song of somebody done me wrong, or it doesn't have a socio-political, axe to grind, as it were. It's maybe something like a Richard Thompson sort of set piece or scenario.
Yeah.
Just here's an image for you. Just a beautiful song. Well, why it was never released, what? Who knows? Well, it was released, obviously. I wouldn't know it, but not on the original album. Who makes these decisions? The record company, Mike, obviously. The record company had him, from the first two albums, cut songs from his original intended track list, which he restored on these two reissues. But we're up to 1985, and this is a C. Do you want to take a little break here for whatever?
Yeah, I think we should wrap it up here, actually, for today.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think that's going to be another extensive discussion. Don't you think this would be a good breaking point?
There's so much.
Exactly.
The box set.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, I think good call. Yeah,
because we've done
Okay.
like 2 hours and 15 minutes just on these first two albums, and I could easily see doing that just on 1985.
Yeah. Oh, sure, sure. Well, I think that's indicative. That merits what those albums mean to us, and probably, thousands of other people around the world too.
Yeah.
It's not just pop, popular music. In fact, it's fairly unpopular music. But just, yeah, right. There's just a lot to unpack on those records, on any given song, never mind an entire album.
Right.
It's like it's like having the entire Encyclopedia Britannica, and going along with the entire history of Western music of the 20th century, along with the writings of the great philosophical and religious leaders, like all encapsulated in 8 or 9 songs or something. Okay,
Yeah, and then you've got Carl Wallinger who's going to come in. You've got right at the end, he discovers Steve Wickham when he had recorded almost everything. So you've got like this new influence that's just starting to come in.
Right,
so
just starting to.
All kinds of interesting dynamics happening in 1985.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, let's call it a wrap on this one. You can re-listen to the 1985 box set.
Yeah,
I know
about 6.5 hours of it.
Exactly. I know it's a tall order in one thing.
Actually, this will be great because I haven't listened to The Secret Life of the Waterboys yet. So like there's an alternate take of Regs and some other things you mentioned that I'm really interested in listening to.
The lyric is really, it's like, oh my God. I mean, compared to the album version.
Is that on the 1985 box set?
No, it isn't. For some reason, it isn't.
Okay,
There's
great.
several things.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and A Love That Kills isn't. But I mean, technically, that's from the A Pagan Place album. The Secret Life of the Waterboys only it covers theoretically the first 3 albums, but there's some stuff that, like I said, why he only released the backing track without the vocal of A Love That Kills on the remaster, the reissue of A Pagan Place.
Yeah.
What's up with that, Mike?
Yeah.
Now maybe but there's a live version of that song that I was talking about, Bury My Heart. There's a live version with the band, with Mike on electric guitar, on the 1985 box, but not the original, which is on The Secret Life of the Waterboys.
Mm-hmm.
Further, and this will interest you, there's 2 versions of the fast version of This Is the Sea,
mm-hmm.
the hard rockin' version,
mm-hmm.
with Tom Verlaine on guitar, which was on Secret Life of the Waterboys, right?
Right.
It's brilliant. Originally, Mike had intended to open the album with that and then close it with the album that we know. The version, the acoustic version that we know.
Mm-hmm.
So on the 1985 box set, that version isn't on there. There is a version, the same backing track and same vocal, but with Mike doing guitar, and his guitar is startling. I prefer to Tom Verlaine's. But it doesn't stop there. There is yet another version on the box set, which is the backing track, but apparently Verlaine, this is all in the booklet, Mike's very detailed, track-by-track booklet. Verlaine did 5 takes, right?
Yeah, because there's a Verlaine take in the 1985 box set.
Yes, but that's taken from takes number 4 and 5. It's a Frankenstein that Mike welded together.
Oh, I see.
It's not the original single take, and Mike overdubbed a brand new vocal in 2023 in Dublin.
Oh, interesting.
And I hate to say he's still a great singer, but I just don't particularly appreciate his current voice for the last couple of decades.
Uh-huh.
I mean, he's great, blah, 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 end of story. He's not Mike Scott from 82 to 1990. Even by 1990, his voice is starting to change. And this is a guy who hasn't smoked for decades and doesn't do drugs and doesn't drink and blah, blah, blah. So, it's just, obviously, it's just, a style that he's just evolved. But, so there's 3 takes of the rocking version of This Is a Sea. And the alternate title, the title on Secret Life of the Waterboys is That Was the River.
Right.
This is all really train spotting stuff, I know. But it's worth listening to again. Just say a couple of songs. Now, you listen on Spotify, so I don't know if it's easier or harder than putting on CDs and programming just 1 or 2 songs. But that's your problem, not mine. So,
and then there's in the special place, the piano demos for This Is the Sea.
Right. And that was a single album. And at the very end, it had a great rocking version with Carl Wallinger on snare drum and keyboards, and Mike playing some really, really cool electric guitar. And then a total remix of the song Trumpets.
Right.
A total remix. And though only the Old England version appears on the box set. But the basic piano demos, it's not disc 2 of the box set is called the Black Box. Each disc has a separate title, right?
Yeah.
And it's the Black Box. You know the story of the Black Box. In New York City, he went into a magic shop and he bought this big black book that witches used for writing their spells.
Yeah.
And that was his lyric book. You know all about that, right?
Yeah.
So that's the title of the second disc 2 of the 1985 box set. They're not the same. They're not completely the same. It omits some songs that was on the special place.
Yeah, I figured that was the case. That was my question.
And there's some new ones. And I think it's the raw tapes. It hasn't been kind of tweaked orally, because it's a beautiful sounding album. When it came out, I thought, oh my God, this is beautiful. It's just, dude in a piano. There's a drum machine on one song, like Beverly Penn. There's a drum machine. Mm-hmm. But so Mike's giving us serious DFM, value for money. But on the other hand, he's a great curator of his own work, but he's missing little pieces here and there, So that's why this is, such train spotting stuff that you may or may not be interested in. I am, just because I think, it's such a special period of music that, every little piece counts. But anyway, dude, you got another week to immerse yourself. Should you want to. But do check out those fast versions of This Is the Sea. There's 3 of them.
I will. Yeah.
There's 2 with Verlaine. One's a Frankenstein.
Yep.
That has a new vocal from Mike, and then Mike's version. And I actually prefer Mike's guitar playing. We could talk about that at a different time. But how can you prefer Mike Scott's guitar playing to Tom Verlaine's? Well, let me tell you why. Got a couple hours?
Yeah.
And I'm not even a guitar player, so. You have to hear Mike's guitar version. It actually sound like Quine. And Mike says in his liner notes, he says, due to my inability.
Sure.
They were recording at the Townhouse in London, and it turned out that Verlaine was living in London at the time, and guess where he was living? He was renting a flat above Townhouse Studios.
Oh, okay.
And the engineer, John Brand, happened to be friends with Tom, or at least know Tom Verlaine. So,
Sure.
like, that's according to Mike. So I said, come on down. And
Sure.
Mike listened to the backing track once, did 5 different passes at it. And, yeah, it's pretty, it's apples and oranges, whether you like the fast or slow, this is the C. But hey, I did listen to again all 18 minutes of it. That version you talked about, the demo version of the This Is a C.
Uh-huh.
I just think it's wonderful. And that's just Mike with his apparently had 20 verses, and he only played 10 of them, and he was just trying it out. And so it was him sitting on the floor of the studio with his 12 string and Carl Wallinger manually playing a new drum pad, either with
This is on
sticks or
1985 box.
Yeah, you talked about it yesterday. You said you didn't like it. You compared to the finished song.
I didn't say I didn't like it. I think I was just saying it had a different meaning, right? This is the one where he's talking about relationships.
Oh, it's all again. It's almost like a Springsteen lyric.
Yeah.
But the line, when he comes to the line, Jesus Christ is coming back. It's not going to be flesh or blood this time. And it's just one of the lines that pop out in that demo version.
Mm-hmm.
But it's cool as hell hearing Wallinger, do the drum manually, playing the drum pad.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a great track, and some of those lines, he's obviously it's the demo. He's just trying. That's what he said in his liner notes for the track.
Sure.
He said he's just trying out verses to see what worked.
Yeah.
A couple of them ended up in the finished song, but some of them, again, we're talking about the concept of spirituality. Whether it's separate from the physical, and how should it be separate from the physical or not? I was thinking about that when I was listening to the track again.
All right, well, let's wrap it up here, and we'll plan to talk again next week.
Yeah.